Good morning, everyone. This is the second module of GoodWe Plus, and today we will go through commissioning of an ET inverter. Let me first share my presentation. So, good morning and welcome to the second module of GoodWe Plus. My name is Theo, and with us today, as in module 1, we have Lindeve and David from South Africa, who will host the webinar and help with questions as well as answering your questions. In case you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to write them in the Q&A section. This way we can better keep track of what you're asking and what we have already answered, and then everyone can also see the answers. This time we don't have a Google form. We have some technical issues with that, so instead we will just give you a bit more time to answer the questions, and that will pop up. Usually we go through the commissioning of all inverters a bit. This time we will only focus on the ET inverter. So this is the hybrid three-phase inverter. But I will also show you a bit on how it looks like on the on-grid inverters, and also the layout of the hybrid inverter is quite similar to also the on-grid inverters. You just need to skip the battery connection part, basically. So let's start. And this is the program for today. So first we will look at how to connect everything to the inverter, what you need to know beforehand, and then the connection of the DC and AC side, as well as the communication. After I showed how to do this, I will also show it live. I have the inverter here next to me, and I will try to show you how it's done, so you get a better feeling of how it looks and so. After that, we will go into how to commission the inverter, given that everything is correctly connected. So what you need to use for this is the app, since the hybrid inverter doesn't come with any display. So I will show you shortly how the app works, and then how to set up the inverter with the app. And then lastly, I will also show how to connect it to SEMS. And after each sections, I will show it a bit live how to do it as well. This is a bit new. I don't know if some of you already done some GoodWe Plus trainings before. Now we're trying to also show it a bit live. So please, if you have any comments about this concept or something like that, we appreciate your comments. Feel free to write it in the commentary section or ask a question or something. Okay. So firstly, what you need when you start commissioning or installing the inverter, what's very, very important is the GoodWe installation manual. In here, you will find the instructions on how to do it, as well as detailed instructions on the distance between the inverter and the wall, the tilt angle, and the connection points, and so on. So please read the manual thoroughly and have it at hand when you install the inverter. It will help you. Also, there are several different apps, and it could be a bit confusing. We have actually three different apps. One is called Solar Go. This is, however, only for grid tie inverters. If you have a hybrid inverter, you need to use the PV Master. It's divided in two different apps, and then we also have the SEMS monitoring app. In addition to that, it's also good to have a good tool set with you, so you can connect everything to the inverter. We also recommend to have a multimeter with also an amp clamp. This way you can check that all the connections have been done properly. And lastly, but also very important, use the equipment so that everything goes well. Here are the different apps. As I told you before, there are two apps for commissioning and one is for monitoring. So it's quite easy actually. Here on the left side, we see that the Solar Go is only for grid tie inverters and the PV Master is only for storage inverters. If you have any kind of hybrid or AC coupled inverter, you will use the PV Master, and for everything else, you use the Solar Go. And then after you commission it, you can use the SEMS app or the SEMS portal on your computer to monitor your plant. So the PV Master is the one we will use today. When you unpack the box, the first thing you should do is to check the manual, and on the page there is, on one of the first pages, there is a list of everything that should be included in the package. This is different for each inverter, so please check this list to make sure that you have everything that you need to install the inverter before starting. Also, some advice and recommendation on how to install it or where to install it. This is also included in the manual, of course. But what's important is the inverter, at least, all inverters have IP65, at least a minimum rating, so they can be installed both inside and outside. But even though they can be installed outside, we do recommend that you protect them a bit from direct sunlight and also rain and snow. So keep them under a small roof or something, and also in the shade, because this will also increase the lifetime of the inverter and make sure that they don't overheat. When you mount the inverter, please also observe in the manual, as I said before, the maximum tilt angle allowed. And this is also a bit different for every inverter. Usually you're not allowed to tilt it in sideways or to the front, but it should be installed upright. For the ET, for example, you can install it slightly backwards, and this is maximum 15 degrees backwards then. And this is to ensure that the cooling system works properly. Please also observe the minimum clearance distances, and this also differs for each inverter. Here you see for the ET, you have roughly 20 decimeters to the right and left or to the sides, and then 30 decimeters upwards and 50 decimeters, 5 decimeters, sorry, downwards. When attaching the mounting plate, observe all mounting plates also look different depending on the inverter. Observe the holes, and then you just drill the holes and attach. Make sure that this one is properly attached before you then hang the inverter on, and use these holes on the side to fasten the inverter to the mounting plate. It's also good to check the AC connection. And here it also differs from inverter to inverter. Please check the cable sizes and the conductor sizes to make sure that they have the right diameters. This is important because in some cases you won't fit the conductors into the sockets that you use on the inverters if it's not the correct size. Also observe the AC isolator specification. It's recommended to use some kind of AC breaker. Please make sure that you have a correct AC breaker that can hold the current for the in the cables that you install. Okay, so now let's go and have a look at the DC and AC side of the ET inverter. Firstly, here is how the inverter looks on the front. These are all the on-grid inverters, but basically all inverters looks quite similar. You have the front here, and on the bottom side you have either a display for the grid tie inverter, or you just have some LEDs, especially for the hybrid inverters. On the bottom side is all the connections, as you see here, and on the left side there is a sticker showing what LED means. And this can be very good to read. This is also included in the manual. In case something doesn't work or during the installation, you are wondering if how it progresses, then you can check the LED lights here to check if it's connected to the AC side, if you have DC connection, if the Wi-Fi works, etc. And on the right-hand side of the inverter, you have also a sticker showing some information about your specific inverter. And in case of any warranty issues or issues with the inverter, you need to contact after sales. The sticker here on the side is really good to have a picture of. So I could recommend you that during installation, take a picture and save it. And this could be used for future purposes. Here on the right-hand side, you also have the check code of the inverter. You have the serial number here, and then it says check code here under as well. And this is needed to add the inverter to your SEMS plant, to the monitoring plant. And this check code is only displayed here, so it doesn't exist in the manual or such. So please make sure that you have this check code so that you can add the inverter to the SEMS portal. So this is the bottom side of a ET inverter. This is actually the newer version of the ET inverter that we had a product update. So this inverter, we call it ET Plus. However, it's the same as the old ET. The difference is that it has a different here communication port that is a bit easier to use. It also has a dry contact here, so you can activate some external loads. So if we go from left to right, here you have the DC switch. Here are the PD inputs. There are usually 2 MPPTs for the EMEA region. There are also only 1 input per MPPT. Here you see that there are 2 inputs for 1 MPPT and 1 for the other one. However, these are usually plugged, so these are not activated, so to say, for ET inverters sold in the EMEA region. Next one here is the battery connection, so similar to the MPPT, just plus and minus. After that, here you have the Wi-Fi connection, or also possible to use 4G or LAN or Bluetooth, and this is all connected here. This is a USB interface. Here is on the ET Plus is the communication terminal. Here you have 18 different pins for RS-485, dry contact, etc. So everything goes here. On the old ET, I will show it to you later. This is also the one we have here in our office. You will have another port here with the BMS port here. So you have the meter port here and the BMS port here, and then the EMS port is connected here underneath, where on the new ET, the BMS port is located. So this is actually a bit better layout, especially if you want to connect it to a SEC 1000 or such in the future. On the right-hand side here, you see the AC output, and there are 2 outputs on this one. This is if you join the first module that we had on Tuesday, you maybe remember that there is also a backup load. So you will have 5 inputs for the normal on-grid loads and also 5 inputs for the backup loads. Before connecting the DC side, please make sure that the DC switch is turned off. Also observe the cable sizes according to the manual, and also connect the PV cable on the side of the inverter before you continue. Then there are connectors supplied in the package. You just use those for the connection to the inverter, and then you plug them in here on to the PV inputs. After attaching the PV inputs, then you should attach the batteries. And they are also here next to the MPPTs, and it's quite easy to find. It says BAT on that. And here also use the connectors that are supplied in the package. And also here, when you use the cables that you use, please always observe the cable sizes. Going forward to the AC side, before connecting anything to the inverter, please measure the values at the grid connection point to make sure that the inverter is compatible with the grid. Then also install AC breakers. This is really recommended from our side. Here you only see one phase AC breaker. In this case, you would need a 3-phase AC breaker. When all of this is done, then you just connect the AC connection here on this one. There is a cover afterwards that you need to pull the connector through this and then connect this, and then you put the cover on the inverter. Also for the backup switch here, it is also recommended to install the SP3T switch on both the backup and on-grid sides. Yes. Now you should have the DC side connected and also the AC side, and now it's time for the internet connection. And this is very, very easy. This is a USB interface. Also, the internet communication device that you want to use, it always has a USB interface, so you just plug it in, and that's it. One thing to mention here is, in case you are going to use a 4G module, you need to first set up the 4G module with the Bluetooth module. So the 4G module is always supplied with a small Bluetooth stick. It looks like this. And this one is then firstly connected to the inverter, and then you can configure the 4G module before you then connect the 4G. After that, you need to connect a smart meter. This is compulsory for all hybrid inverter. The smart meter helps the inverter to know how much loads are being used to optimize the discharge and charging of the battery. On both the old and the new inverter, a ET inverter, there is one port here just next to the AC output called meter, and everything here is already pre-wired. I will show that later as well. And this is the connection to the meter, and this is a pre-wired RG45 contact. I will show that later, and then either you use the cable supplied, or you can cut it and then use another connector if the cable is too long. The smart meter is also supplied in the package, and it's already pre-wired with 2 pins that goes to the inverter, and then there is a connection socket for the RG45 connection. With the smart meters, this is the RG45 cable that goes to the inverter. Otherwise, here on the top for a 3-phase inverter, you will have 3 CTs. The CTs are then clamped on just before the grid connection point. So if you have a power meter, usually in the facility, you just attach the CTs before that. And it's important here to check the direction of the CTs. I will show that later as well. They are marked with house arrow grid, or also if I look here, it also says house, or it says K to L, and K is house in this case, and L is grid. So make sure that it always points towards the grid. On the bottom side here, you need to connect the voltage sense, and here it's also important that you connect the voltage sense as close as possible to the current transformers so that there are no loads in between. The loads should be here, and then the voltage sense and the CTs should all be connected just before the grid connection point. This is important because if you connect some loads here, then the reading of the voltage here and the current here will be wrong. So please make sure that there are no loads in between here. I will also show that, yeah, exactly, connect just before the meter and check the direction, and also connect on the same side as the CT so that you make sure that loads are located there. One thing that could be a bit tricky, I can show that again here, is that each CT should be connected to a specific line, and the corresponding line should also have the voltage sense here, and the direction on how you connect the CTs here on the upper part is different from how you connect the voltage sense. So pay attention to this here. As you see here, the CTs are also marked with CT A, B, and C. So for phase 1, 2, and 3. Here you can see that the first phase is connected on the right-hand side, and then so the phases goes from right to left here. But if you check the voltage sense here on the bottom side, they go from the left to right. So here you see that the first phase here is connected here to the left after the neutral cable. So make sure that you connect the corresponding voltage sense to the corresponding CTs. Otherwise, it will look funny in the monitoring portal. In case you want to connect several ETs in parallel, you need a SEC1000S. And here it looks a bit different between the new ET and the older one. For the new ET Plus, there's just this board here. This is a socket with 18 pins, and then you just read the manual to see where to connect the RS485. On the old ET, there are ports like this. So here you see the difference. And then you need to unscrew the one called meter. And then in the box of the SEC1000S, there is another cable supplied looking like this. And this one you will need to reattach here instead. It should be connected to the EMS port, which is the lower one here. I will, as we have this one here in the office, I will show this old connection. I think that most of you will have had installed this one until now because this one was just launched. Yes. And also for the SEC1000S, this is how it looks like. I can also show it later on here in the office. And here you need to use this Y connector that I told you about. And it looks basically like this. It's already pre-wired with RG45 contacts. You just plug it into the inverter, and here on the other side, you just take a piece of standard LAN cable and you just connect the corresponding pins to one of these comms here. And here you see how they are connected in daisy chain with the Y connector to this port. Okay, so now for the first quiz, we'll give you a few minutes to answer the questions, and after that, I will show you the live installation of the inverter. I hope you all see the questions now popping up. Basically, it's how can you commission the ET, and then it's with the display, with PV Master app, or with both the display and the PV Master app. Remember here that this is a hybrid inverter. Second question is, where can you always get the complete manual? This should be clear. We don't have a GoodWe store, for example. And also the maximum tilt angle of the installation of the ET. I also showed that in the beginning. And before connecting the DC cables, this should also be clear to everyone. The connection of the CTs is very important. Also remember about the voltage sense location and the CT. And yes, and also the direction that the CTs should be facing. So we'll give you a few more minutes to answer the questions, and then I will show this live as well. So I see here that someone of you had a bit poor Wi-Fi connection and dropped out and didn't see the connections. I will also show it after these questions live. So I hope you, in case you still wonder something after that, feel free to post another question then. And to clarify something on question 5 here on where the CTs should be connected, make sure that this should be seen from the inverter. So from the inverter, where the cable goes from the inverter, it's from that point of view, so to say. And also on question 1, it seems to be some confusion here. Maybe I wasn't clear enough, but all on-grid inverters, or most of the on-grid inverter, has the option to be delivered with a display. However, our hybrid or AC coupled inverters, so any storage inverter, they don't have a display. It's important to know. I'll give you one more minute to answer the questions, and then I will show you the live connection of the ET inverter. Okay, I think everyone has answered, or most of us. So I think we can end the poll, or wait, one more. Yes, I think now everyone answered questions, so we can continue. And to also clarify here that all the results of from all modules will be sent out after the last module. So the third module is held on Tuesday next week. And after that, we will assess all the answers and then send out an email to all of you. Another question here is that in the event of a power cut, will the inverter then automatically go to off-grid? We don't like to call it off-grid, rather backup. And this means that in the event of a power cut, the inverter will then disconnect the on-grid loads, but keep on supplying the backup loads automatically. And this function is integrated in the inverter. You don't need to install any additional devices for this. I will show you the different connections here for where you can connect the backup loads. And in the event of a power cut, then these loads will continue to be supplied. Okay, so now here I will try to show you how to connect everything. So firstly here you see the ET inverter. This is how it looks like. Here on the side as well, you see the sticker with the name and everything. And here on the bottom, you also have the check code. There is our DC source. Instead of the PV modules, we'll use this to simulate the modules. Here on the bottom side of the inverter, I will show you the left side as well. So here you see also a sticker with all different explanation of all the LEDs. Here you see that the inverter doesn't have a display. Instead, there are different LED lights here showing different information. Here on the bottom side, I will try to use this pen to, maybe it's easier to see then. Just screw this a bit better on. It's more stable. Okay. So here you can see the DC switch. Here you see that this is the PV inputs for 1 MPPT. However, this is plugged, so you cannot use this. Instead, here you have 1 MPPT here with the inputs, and here are the inputs for the second MPPT. Usually come with these blue covers too, in case you don't use them, and they should be protected from moist and such. The other connection here is for the battery. They also have these rubber things on them. Next here is the USB connection for the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4G, or LAN connection. Here you see, because this is actually the standard, I'm saying old, but this is actually the standard type of ET that we sell at the moment. So you see that you have 2 ports here. On the left side here, you see the BMS. This is for the battery management system. And you see that it's already pre-wired. It is delivered like this. And here on the bottom side, this is GRED. This is only for Australia. This is a function that's necessary in Australia. So for EMEA region, you don't need to think about this one. Here on the other side, you see here on the top, it says meter, and this output is also already pre-wired. On the bottom side here is the EMS, and this is for, this is the RS-45 connection. So for example, if you want to connect several inverter in parallel, you will need to open this up and then connect here the SAC 1000. And here you have the AC connection, and as you see here, there are 2 different inputs. This is with the cover on. Here I already connected 1 AC output, and the other one should go in here. You can actually see here on the side, you see that it says on grid and backup. So this is all the on-grid loads, and this way, I think you see better now. So this line here is connected then to all the on-grid loads. And in case of a power cut, this one will be disconnected. And a similar cable should be connected here. And in case of a power cut, then this one will keep on supplying power, but this one will be cut. Move this. So firstly, you should connect the DC side. And then before doing that, it's really important that you connect here on the side the grounding cable. And this is quite easy. It's just a screw here. You just attach it. Quite easy. Make sure you have the correct size of this cable. Secondly, you can connect the DC inputs, and then you have them here. Make sure that this one is off. Here's on, then turn off. I put this a bit closer. And if you have connected these correctly, you can only connect them in one way. So there should not be any mistakes here. So you just connect them here. Keep this still off. Actually, we can keep this off before we connect everything else. And then here on the left side, here you have the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Here's the battery connection. I don't have any battery here in the office, so we will just not connect this at the moment. But in case you have a battery, then you just need to connect it here. It's exactly like the PV modules. Here for the USB, you just have the Wi-Fi module. It looks like this. And then it's only one way to connect it. You just push it in, straightforward, and then it's connected. Otherwise, if you have a Bluetooth, it's the same. In some cases, this is an ET, a newer version, not the ET Plus version, so the one with the special port here. Here is a USB interface. In some cases, if you don't get the Wi-Fi module delivered or you have it swapped or something like that, in case you have the old Wi-Fi modules, which only has a 5-pin connection, you can still connect it to the hybrid inverter. And to connect the 5-pin Wi-Fi modules, you just need to unscrew this plate here. Just attach 2 screws, so you can go quickly unscrew. And then you can see here on the inside, there is just the connection. There is the 5-pin connection here to the USB interface. So in those cases, when you have that, you just pull out this cable here. And then you see that here's the 5-pin connection. You connect this to the 5-pin Wi-Fi module, and then you attach the Wi-Fi module here with screws. In this case, we have a USB one, so I will reattach this. So we can connect the USB. Let me just unscrew or attach this. It looks better. Okay, so attached again. Here is the battery communication cable. So as you see here, this is a normal RG45 cable. You can even see here that only two pins of this are connected. So you can even see here which pins are connected. And you can also read in the manual which pins of this one that are used. And you can either connect this directly to the battery, or you just cut the cable and you can use the cables inside. Here on the left side, here is the connection to the meter. Before showing the meter, I will show you the AC side. This is a bit more complicated maybe. So I will just show how the AC side is connected. So this one. So you see that this is just a cover to keep the IP66 actually for the ET. And here you can see that there are two connections. One is for the on-grid, it says up here, on-grid, and here on the bottom side is for the backup. So you just have two different AC outputs of the inverters that you need to connect. So make sure that this is properly connected, and then you just, with this one here, you just reattach this. Just attach on the screw here. This is not in the way. Okay. Okay, and now to the meter. As you see, this is also already pre-wired. Here on the other side, you have this one. This is a quite long cable. In case you don't need all of this cable, you can just cut it and connect another one of those. However, it's quite convenient when it's already pre-wired. I can show you, let me do this. And show you here. This is the smart meter that is delivered with the package. So what you see here, that this one is already connected here. Sometimes the CTs are already connected. Basically, you have them. Untangle this. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now you should have a better overview. So this is already connected with a socket for the RG45. Here you have the CTs all connected here to this one. Here you see that they start from right to left. So here you have CTA, sorry, like this, CTA. And there you also see here house to grid. So it should always, the arrow here should always face the grid. This is very important, especially if you want to use the export limit function. If you have them the other way, they won't be able to limit the export. Here on the bottom side, here you see that the first line goes from left to right instead, from here on top, where you have CTA connected here on the right side here. But basically, so everything is already pre-wired. Make sure you connect these ones and attach the CTs correctly. After that, to this socket here, let's see if I can show you here. Just take the cable from the inverter and just connect it here, and it's all done. So really not much to do. What I want to show you as well is in the case that you want to connect them in parallel with a SEC 1000S. In that case, you have a cable that looks like this. This is delivered with the SEC 1000S. And you see here that you also have a plate. This looks similar to this one, or exactly the same. So you need to exchange the plate and also to connect this cable inside. And then here you have the white connection going out. And so here you also have everything pre-wired. You just remove this one. And here you see that here you also have the RG45 socket. So I will try to show you here. So this one needs to be removed. And when you unscrew this, you can move this plate a bit. You can also loosen this one here to remove it. I'm not sure if you see inside it with this camera, but you can see that there are then some connection points in here for the RG45. So you just need to pull this cable out. So you press this one in and pull the cable out. And now you see better, you can better see the different connection points here. And as this one is installed like this one goes to the upper one. Then of course it needs to also be connected here to the upper port. Let me do it like this so you see the upper port here. On the other one, this one, that's for the SEC1000S to connect the ETs in parallel. You see that this one is connected to the EMS on the lower side. So this one should go there to this port. And then basically you just make sure that this cable is connected. You will hear a click, and then you just use the same screws and attach this plate here. And now you have the Y connection coming out here. And then you can connect. One here goes to the SEC1000S, and the other one here goes to the next inverter. And here, this one, I will also show you the SEC1000S. It's actually here. And here, you see that it also has a smart meter here. Here you have the AC connection for the voltage sense. Here you need third-party CTs. So you're not allowed to use the same CTs that are supplied with the smart meter here. Those are only for direct connection to the inverter. For this one here, you need third-party CTs with 5 amps on the secondary side. That's important. And then from the RG45 contact on the inverter that comes out from this one, you just need two wires from this one to be connected here on the bottom side. Here you can see that you have COM 1, 2, and 3, and to COM 4 it's already pre-wired. So to COM 1, 2, and 3 you can connect inverters. That's basically it. And then on the SEC1000 here, you also have an internet connection. And I think that's basically it. AC connection for voltage sense, CTs for current. This one for internet connection, and then the inverter here to one port. That's it. Okay. I hope you now know a bit more how it works. I can also show you if I turn this on here. We have some voltage, and then we can turn on this one here. And then you now have the inverter powering up. And I will show you later on how to connect so you see now here it's blinking, means that it's on. And then I will also show you how to commission it with Wi-Fi module connected there, as well as the Bluetooth module. And then you can commission the inverter. Just connect and commission. Okay. Let me remove the spotlight from this one and share the presentation again. One second. Do you see the full screen now?
Yes.
Great. So in case you have any questions, feel free to post them as well. We'll stop the video of this one. I hope that gave you a bit more familiarity with the inverter and know how to connect everything. Now let's talk about how to commission an inverter. Firstly, this is a short introduction of the PV Master. As you saw earlier, the inverter doesn't have any display, so you can only commission it with the app. There are two different ways of doing this, either with the Wi-Fi module or with the Bluetooth module. It's also possible with the LAN, but usually we advise to use the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth. With the Wi-Fi connecting it, then you just need to plug in the Wi-Fi module. Then you go to the internet settings on your phone, search for the Wi-Fi, and then it's usually called like solar Wi-Fi with the last digits of the serial number, as you see here. Then you select it, and the password to connect to the inverter Wi-Fi is always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very easy. In case you connect it with the Bluetooth, then you don't need to go into the Bluetooth settings on your phone. You just plug in the Bluetooth, open the PV Master app here and scroll down, and then you should see sol_BLE with the serial number of the inverters, and you can connect to it directly. When you then go into the PV Master app, we'll see this one coming down. If you have connected to the solar Wi-Fi, you select the one, your inverter here, and then you will come into the settings of that inverter. Depending on which inverter you use, the interface will look a bit different. Here I try to show for the ET, but there are also new and old ET, so it can look a bit different. It also looks a bit different if you connect it with, let me have my laser point here, if you connect it with the Bluetooth or with the Wi-Fi. But basically when you connect it here, the first thing that pops up is an overview of the inverter. Here you can see live data on how much power you have from the PV modules and the power from the battery, the loads, and also the export to the grid. You also see a short overview here of the settings that are active at the moment. And here on the bottom side, you have a menu where you have 3 different options. So on the bottom menu, the first one here is the overview. It's this one that you see here. Secondly, here in the middle, it's called parameters. And here you can check the detailed settings that you have chosen. And you can also see some the current alarms or errors on the inverter, and also history of those. On the right-hand side here, you have all the settings. So here you have the grid settings, the battery settings, the smart meter settings. So what we need to do is to press here on settings when we want to commission it. And I must say that I find the PV Master quite easy to use, because basically what is required to have the inverter to run is only to select the basic settings here. So you select the basic settings here, and then the app will guide you through everything you need to fill in. Basically, firstly, the first screen that will pop up is a list of countries. Here you need to select the country code. There's a long list here. You can scroll down and select one that's proper for you. In case you don't find it, there are also some standard options such as 50 Hertz standard, and then you can change the settings later on. But if your country is here, it's quite easy. You just select the country, click on next. Second screen that will pop up is a working mode that you need to select for the battery. Here you have 4 different modes. Sorry. The first one here is a general mode. This is usually what most people use. This is recommended. There is also a off-grid mode. This is only used in very special occasions. We do not recommend to use it. Then there's a backup mode. This is that you can, in case of a blackout, then you can use the backup mode as well. The Economical mode here is that you can set certain times on when the battery should charge or discharge. So just select your battery here, your working mode, sorry, and click on next. The third screen that will pop up then is the battery that you have installed. So here you just need to select your battery, and then also here on the bottom, you just click on next. After that, it usually also asks you to do a smart meter test to check if all the CTs are connected properly. You can just run that test to make sure that there are no errors. And basically, when you have done that, the inverter should, in most cases, be up and running. In some cases, there are some advanced settings here. So in case you don't find your country code and you need to change some specific settings, or you want to activate the backup supply, or you have a SCC 1000 connected or something like that, then you can reach all those settings here through the advanced settings menu. From this one, this thing here will pop up. And usually both when you enter basic and advanced settings, they will ask you for a password. The standard password is GoodWe 2010. It's important to remember. This is also described in the manual, and it's also recommended to change this afterwards so that no one can access the settings that shouldn't. In the advanced settings menu, you have the grid parameter settings here, and here you can set the power limit. We'll show that later. Or maybe let's do it straight away. Here on the power limit settings, you can activate the power limit here by checking. Sorry, let me get the pointer. By checking this one, and you need to set the power limit threshold. If you want to have 0 export, you need to put a 0 here. Otherwise, if you want 100 watt, 1000 watt, 1 kilowatt, you enter it here. Make sure that this number here is in watt and not kilowatt or something like that. Unbalanced output is also a function for our hybrid inverter. Here you can select this one, and also here you also have options to change the power factor. Here is then in case you want to customize the safety parameters. If you have some special grid settings that you need to do, you click here, and then you have protection parameters, connection point, curve settings, etc. You can scroll here on the menu here on the top, and then choose this one. However, we only recommend that you do something here if you know what to do. So only if it's needed. In most cases in Europe and such, this is not needed. The second one here is the backup supply. Activate this if you want to have the backup function activated. So as I showed you, there are 2 AC outputs. If you connect something to the backup output, then you can activate it here. The shadow scan function is only supposed to be used in case you have a lot of shadows on your PV modules. Then this one sort of triggers the inverters to check for the maximum power point more often. But in case you don't have any shadows, then it's not recommended to use this, because the inverter will not generate any energy when it checks for this power point. So it only optimizes the yield when you have a lot of shadows. Otherwise, it's more optimal to not use this function. The COM address here is in case you connect them in parallel, then you need to set the COM address for each inverter. That's unique. So you just enter it here. Clear overloading fault. This is in case you have a grid outage and you have connected too much loads to the backup output. Then the inverter will power down because of overloading. It will then try to restart after a fixed amount of time. And after doing this for a few times, it won't try to restart in case the load is still too much. and then you need to reset it manually, and then you just need to go in settings and click this one here. Here on the battery settings, let me show you. You access the battery settings, and this interface looks a bit different for which inverter you have, but basically the first settings here, this is only if you have lead acid batteries. In case you have lithium ion batteries, you don't need to change anything here. These are set automatically by the BMS. Here you have a state of charge protection that you can activate custom levels of depth of discharge, and then you can set it here in percentage for when it's connected to the grid, and then also when it's in backup mode. So just to know, for you to know that it's possible to access it here. For example, if you live in very cold countries, then it could be good to change this depth of discharge to have a bit more extra battery power during the winter when so that the battery is not damaged. Yes, and that's the advanced settings. Moreover, it's also good to update the Wi-Fi password of the inverter. Here you have all the internet settings. You just click here, and then it will pop up a window taking you to some website where you can log in and change the settings. And the password here is admin and admin. Here, the next option in the menu is the meter test. This is usually already done when you have entered the basic settings, but if you want to do it, because maybe you change some things with the CTs afterwards, and you want to do it only the meter test without going through everything here, you also have the option here. So just enter here, check this, and then it runs a test to check if the CTs are correctly installed. And here you see the version number of the app. It could also be good to always keep the latest one. One thing that we recommend now is that in case, we changed that our new inverters, they are usually then delivered with a Bluetooth module for our hybrid inverters. And then we recommend you to do the first thing before you commission the inverter is to use the Bluetooth module to update the inverter to the latest firmware. This is to make sure that there are no bugs or anything that could affect the commissioning. So in case you have the Bluetooth module in the package, you can see it in the installation manual. You can see the list, and you can just check for the Bluetooth module. If it's not there, it's okay. It's also good. You can try to commission it, and in case something goes wrong and you think you need to update the firmware, then you can contact our after sales. Otherwise, use the Bluetooth module supplied with inverter. You connect it here, and you do not need to go into the Bluetooth settings. You just need to open the PV Master app and press here on Connect Device, Inverter with Bluetooth, and then you select I know. After that, you will be taken to the front screen here. Here you see that you can select you can also select the Bluetooth here, and this will look similar as when you connect it with the Wi-Fi. However, you will have a yellow pop-up here in case you don't have the latest firmware, and you can click on this here, and this will take you to. Oh, I'm not sure if you see my mouse. Now you have the laser pointer. So if you click on this yellow here, you will come to this screen here, and from here you can do the firmware upgrade yourself before commissioning the inverter. Here are the different steps. Basically, you just click on upgrade and then you confirm, and it takes a few minutes. Make sure that you don't turn off the inverter, the DC source of the inverter when when it's upgrading, and it will take a few minutes until also for the update, but also afterwards the whole inverter will reboot, and yeah, and then it will take a few minutes to reboot and then give you a confirmation if it was successful or not.
I'll just add a section there, since I've done it a few times myself. So yes. When it will say update successful, after it says update successful, you just have to wait and be patient, because you won't be able to access the inverter via the Bluetooth anymore. So you just have to wait for the inverter to physically restart. Once it's physically restarted, then you'll know it's updated. But in that 5 to 10 minutes after it said update successfully, you just have to patiently wait for it to finish.
Thank you, David. It is an ET expert in our team, so he knows it best, I think. Okay, so now a few more questions, and then I will show how to commission the inverter live. And then after that, we will also have a look at the SEMS portal. A few less questions this time for quiz questions in the poll. So maybe it goes a bit quicker. First one is, which app is used to commission the storage inverter? I hope you all know this. We just went through this app. Secondly, is what's the default password to connect to the inverter's hotspot or the Wi-Fi of the inverter? This is always good to know when you commission the inverter. And what is also the default password to access the inverter settings as an installer? This is through the PV Master app. Okay, I think all have answered. There is also one question asking if the Wi-Fi module is included with all the inverters. And yes, the Wi-Fi comes as a standard to all of our inverters, also the on-grid inverters, but also then the storage inverters. Since a time ago, we also tried to include the Bluetooth dongle with our hybrid inverters so that the installers can upgrade the firmware themselves during the commissioning. This will then make the process a bit more quicker also for the installers, so that they don't need to contact after sales service only to update the firmware. But yes, the Wi-Fi is included with all inverters. There are some cases where it's possible to order it without the Wi-Fi or to order it with the LAN dongle, but as a standard, the Wi-Fi is included. Okay, I think the polls are all answered. Very good. I think it's clear for most people. It looks very clear on the passwords and such. That's nice. Now let me try sharing my screen. Do you see? I'm not sure if this works now. Do you see my phone?
We can see it there.
Okay, great. Got it. Let's. Okay. Do you also see my mouse?
Yes.
Yes, great. Okay. So to commission the inverter, we have now, let me first plug in the Wi-Fi module to show you how to connect it with the Wi-Fi. Power on the inverter. So to turn on the Wi-Fi, then you go into settings here, go on to Wi-Fi. And on the top here, you need to try to find the Wi-Fi of the inverter. Let's see, it takes a bit for the inverter to power on. I think, let's refresh this. So here you see it popping up, the solar Wi-Fi, and then this last digit of the serial number of the inverter. And then you just select this one here, and then you enter the password on top, which is then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then join. Incorrect password. Let me try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So now I'm joining the Wi-Fi. Then you can exit this. You can go then to open the PV Master app here. We load a bit. Let's see how this works. And then you see here it's popping up directly. Then you select the solar Wi-Fi here. Takes you to the starting screen of the inverter. As you see, it's in waiting mode. This is because I have no AC line connected, and therefore it's in waiting mode. Or it could also say grid fault or something like that. To set up inverter, or firstly, I can just show you here, you have this short overview of the current safety code selected, the battery model, etc. Here on the bottom side, you can select parameters. And here you see that you have the system data here. You can see the PV input from the DC source that I've connected. You have now 200, we have 284 volts, otherwise no output, not on the on-grid or the backup. You can also see the battery and also some information about the inverter here. You click on the top here on alarm. You will see then the different faults that has been experienced. So then you see here one, it says error code, etc. And this could be very good in case, I mean, now you see all these errors because I haven't connected the inverter properly. There's no AC connection. If you have connected everything properly and you then have some error of the inverter, you go to site, then you can open this section here. You can take a print screen of it and then send this to our after sales service, because this is usually what this will help them to maybe identify the fault. To set up the inverter, you click here on the bottom side on settings. Here you then see the list. You have basic settings, advanced settings, as I showed you, some additional stuff. Here you just see the contact to different GoodWe contacts for different countries, and so on. But what's important are the top one here, basic setting, advanced settings, and also update Wi-Fi password of the inverter, and also the meter test, of course. So firstly, we'll click on basic settings here. It will ask us for a password. Then we just need to enter here small g, GoodWe 2010. Click only here to disappear the bottom keyboard. Then we press on login. This takes us to the full screen, or the first screen here. Here you can see you have all the different continents. Sometimes the countries are not categorized correctly. So it could also make sense to check other continents if you don't find your country. Also, if your country is really not there, then you can click here on other, and here you have some default settings for different kind of grid types. For me, we are currently in Europe, so I select Europe. I scroll down here to find Germany, which is here. Press on this one, and here you see two different options, one for hybrid inverter and one for AC coupled. The ET is a hybrid inverter, so we select this one. Then we need to wait a bit. It says failed. That can happen. You just need to try again. Thinking it could be because of the Wi-Fi connection. Maybe I didn't connect it properly. Now it says successful, and then this is selected, and now we can press here on next on the bottom side. This will take us to the working mode, and here we need to select the proper working mode of the inverter. I explained a bit about them before. Basically, what's the most used one is this general mode. This will prioritize self-consumption. So first it will try to use, for the loads here, we'll try to use the power from the PV. Then if that's not enough, we'll use it from the battery. And if that's not enough, then from the grid. So here we will select, we'll select this general working mode here. And then it says the power generator by this pin blah, blah, blah. This is what I just said. And so on. It's also possible to select the eco mode here, economical mode, and you can set the charge and discharge times of the inverter. But let's select the general mode now, and then we press here on set. And successful, good. Then we press on next here. Here now we need to select the battery we have. I don't really have a battery at the moment, but as you see here, there's a wide list of batteries that you can select. Commonly for the ET, I would say it's maybe the BYD with the high voltage batteries. But in our case, we can now select no battery here. So select no battery here. It's also possible to here select the self-define, but there is a list on our website with the batteries that are compatible with the inverters. Please have a look at that list. In case you don't find it on that list, it's not recommended to use it. We update it quite frequently, and there are many different brands there. So please have a look. Battery communication failed. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. Now I also don't have a battery. If it doesn't work and you have this pop-up, then you just need to try a few more times. Then after a while it works. You could also imagine if we try to select another battery now, it would not be able to connect to it because we haven't connected the BMS cable, so it can't really get any information from the battery. I think, however, if there's no battery, we can still just press next here. And here we can do a meter test. So here you just turn this one on here on the top. Then afterwards you press set. Yeah, failed. We haven't connected a meter, so of course this one will fail, but if you have connected the meter, it will perform the test, and then you can see it here. Afterwards, when you're done, you just press here on the bottom side, you press on exit, and then it says that the device needs to restart because you have changed all the settings, and then if you're happy with it, then you press yes, otherwise no, and on the top here, you can go back. So we press yes, and this will then restart the inverter. And after a while, we get back to the main settings here. Let us go into the advanced settings here. Here you see this, and here now we can just select the grid parameters here to show you how it looks like. On the top here, to select the power limit, you just need to click this one. Now I turn it off. So if you don't want to have any, sometimes it says power limit, but sometimes it says power export control or something like that. But it means the same. Here it says enable to limit the output power of the inverter, but as it has a smart meter connected, it will not limit the output power of the inverter, but rather limit the output power past the CTs that are connected, or the current transformers. So if a smart meter is connected, this is the same as power export limit. Here you just enter the threshold, and here you can select unbalanced output if you want to. Here is the power factor, and here you can set some customized. Yes, we don't want to set this now. Let's press cancel. Here you can see on the top here, you can scroll and have many different settings that you can access here. Yes, just for your information to know where it's located. Let's go back. And here you can activate the backup power supply. So in case you want to use the backup loads, then you need to activate this function here. Detection mode, you can just keep it as the standard as for half-wave detection. Cold start is in case you want the inverter to turn on even if the grid, if the grid goes out during night, for example, then the inverter needs to start up without the grid, then you can turn this one on here. Here you have the shadow scan, for example. Here you can put the COM address, and here is the clear overloading fault button. On the bottom side here, you have battery settings. And here you see that this is all gathered automatically from the BMS. In case you have lead acid batteries, then you could need to set this automatically. Here you can activate or deactivate this one to have a customized state of charge protection and change the depth of discharge manually or customize those. We just turn it off now. When you're done, you just press on save. It's saved, and then you can go back to the other menu. Let's go back one more.
Theo, just one thing.
Yes.
Let's just note that with the ETs and any high voltage inverters, lead acids are not compatible whatsoever.
Yes, good to mention.
A note to mention for everyone that you can't use lead acids on this specific inverter.
Yes, thank you. Going back here, now we have, let's see if we went through everything on the on the advanced settings. When you're done, every time you exit advanced settings, the device needs to restart. You can also press no now. In this case, here on the update Wi-Fi password, you press here, and you just need to enter the new password, etc. I have already now logged into this admin account, so I think that's why it doesn't take me to this website here. Here we just enter the new Wi-Fi setting password, and also here underneath. And then when you're done, you press here on the bottom on submit. Here's also the meter test again, in case you don't want to go through the whole basic menu. Basic setup menu. So this one is the same here as we saw before. And that's basically it. So as a recap, what you need to know is the basic setting here. Just go through the menu. It will guide you through it, and then you're done. In case you want to have some power limit export or advanced settings, you access it through this one here. And here you can also change the Wi-Fi password of the inverter. Yes, and that's it. Let's close this, and let's, I think we have a poll for this, if I'm not wrong. Yes, round 3. Also not so many questions. No, this is the one. Sorry, this is not the correct poll. Sorry, Lindeve. First, I will show you the presentation of SEMS now. Let me share my presentation again. See, click here, share. This is sorry, it's the wrong name here. We're wrong here. Where we were is here, I think. Okay, so connecting it to SEMS. First, a short SEMS introduction and how to connect your inverter to SEMS. And after that, I will show you also on the phone how to connect your plant to SEMS. This is SEMS. SEMS is a monitoring portal for both installers and end users. We have a online version, web browser version that you can access to any web browser through any web browser, and there's also an app that you can use. Here I will first show you a web browser. So when you log in and have a account created, you will see an overview here. In case you haven't created any SEMS account yet, you can, for installers, you need to contact our sales support, and for end users, you can just register directly on our website. And on our website, there's also a demo version that you can access and go around and play. Here we have 3 plants here connected. So you can click on them and see how it would look like. This is the front page. Here you see first some overview here of the status of all your connected plants. Here you see the generation and how many new plants you have this month. And here also some total generation over the whole account history, so to say. There are a few different statuses of the plants here. You have fault, offline, waiting, and working. Fault and waiting are basically 2 errors. Something has happened with inverters, so it's not working properly. It's not feeding any power out. Fault is more severe, I would say, and waiting is usually just that the inverter is on pause due to some settings usually. In case there's no internet connection of the inverter, you will also see it online. And in case everything is up and running and is connected to the internet, you will see it as working. And you can see the different colors here on the left side. And here you then have the list of all the plants that you have, and you see a short overview of them. This status here is quite good to use for also for installers to check in case anything you install has something went wrong, and then you can see it through the portal. You can also activate that you get notifications by email in case something happens. And then you can also use this portal to also check maybe what happened, what kind of errors are there, what could have gone wrong. You can check the current and the voltage and so on. I will show that later. And then maybe you can then solve some issues remotely, so you don't need to go there yourself. When clicking on a plant here, let's click on this one, then you will go to this page. This is the overview of the specific plant that you just entered. Here on this side here, you have a system overview, a small weather forecast. Here you see the current PV power as well as the battery charging status. However, there is a delay here. So if it doesn't change fast enough, you turn on off or on some load and it doesn't change fast enough, it's because there are some delays here in the system. So it's not live data, but I think one or 2 minutes delayed, maybe 5 minutes, I'm not sure. Here on the top side, you see some accumulated data of your total plant. And underneath here, you also have a graph showing the total plant. And here you can select different things to check it. You can also select the date, and you can also select a few more options here. The income, as you see here, it is not how much power you export out to the grid. It's just when you set up the plant, you can set up a scaler that is then multiplied with your total generation. So if you would have say that 1 kilowatt hour is gives you €1, if you have then generated 36 kilowatt hours, it will has 36 euros here. This is just a fun feature. Some mistakes is for the power that's exported, but this is just for the total generation. So you can see it as the money saved for using PV instead of importing electricity from the grid. On the bottom side here, you have specific details of your devices. If you have many devices, you will see a list here, and then you can select the specific inverter. And you see here some information of it, so the model, the serial number, and so on. You also have some overview data here and the current status of the device. In case you want to have some more advanced graphs, you can click here on curve. This will take you to a page that looks like this. And here on this drop-down menu, you can select many different things to check. You can also select the date here. So as you see here, you can see the current on string level, the voltage on string level, temperature of the inverter, the working mode, also the Wi-Fi strength here, the RSSI. So in case, for example, here you can troubleshoot a bit. If there's an inverter that has connection issues, then you can check the Wi-Fi strength here, and maybe you find out that, okay, it's way too low, and that's why the data is not sent properly. Yes, so here you see, here you have it on string level, STR for string, and here you have for PV, this is on MPPT level. The app, it is similar to the browser version, so to say. However, I find the app much easier to use if you want to add a plant. Usually, especially when you commission a hybrid inverter, you still need to use the phone anyways. And then having the SEMS app there to add the plant directly is definitely the quickest way. When you open the SEMS app, then here you can you just log in with your email address and your password. Here you can also access the demo version. Here you can register as an end user, and here you can also set up the Wi-Fi communication. However, when logging in, you will then come to similar as I showed before, with an overview here on the top and all your installed plants here on the bottom. To add a new plant, you just click here on the top part here. This will take you to the create plant page here, and here you just enter all the fields, and then it's done. So the owner's email, this is really important. They will then get this will create an account for them, sending them an email with a default password, so they can also have a look at their own plant. You name the plant, select the location, classification of the plant, and so on. And here you input the capacity, and make sure here that this capacity is in kilowatt. So when you saw the settings in PV Master, it was in watt when you want to set the power limit, but here it's in kilowatt. Some input the watt, and then you have a very large plant. So then you will see some incorrect data. Here is this profit ratio, that's the scalar that's multiplied with the total generation, and this will then be shown as the income. Here's the possibility to add a photo, and then when you're done, you click submit. And good to know is that the email that the owner of the plant will receive, it will open an account for them, and the default password will be GoodWe 2018 with a large G. It will also say on the pop-up window before, when clicking here, it will pop up here, and then you can click submit. And you see here that you have the default password. This way, now you have the plant created. The plant is there, but you have no devices added to it. So let's say you have the PV modules added, and now you just need to add the inverter, and also in case you have an SSC 1000 or some data loggers, you can also add it. Here you have your plant, the name of it here, and then all the overview. in the beginning, it will ask you to either if you want to add it immediately, or in case you don't use this, you can add it later here by pressing this button. This will open up the camera, and I think this is the really easiest way to add the plant, because on the side of the inverter you have a QR code. So when clicking here, you just use the camera, scan the QR code on the inverter, and it will fill in this automatically. You just put the name on the device and just click add inverter, and then it's done. On your page then you can see the added plants, you can see the generation, you can also check specific parameters and also get alarms and fault messages. So let's now try to show you how to add a plant live. And then we have a final quiz, and then we are done with this module. Let me share this. I hope this is. You see my phone screen again?
Yes, dear.
Yes, thank you. So here, opening up the SEMS portal now. I am already logged in now, and then I just here on the top. And of course, there's some. Let's close the app and try again. So clicking on the SEMS portal. I think my phone is not working. Seems to be some issues with the SEMS portal, or maybe.
Are you still connected to solar Wi-Fi? Because on solar Wi-Fi you won't have any data.
Yeah, true.
So just can disconnect from the solar Wi-Fi.
That is the that's the reason.
So this is a common thing that happens in the field.
Yeah. Remember to, after you commission it, to turn off the Wi-Fi and use your either some other Wi-Fi, because the solar Wi-Fi of course doesn't have any data. Now I will use my mobile data instead. Connect to the SEMS portal, and hopefully it should work now. Okay. Yes, now we are in. Okay, so and to add a plant, press plus here on the top. Here I will just enter an email address, Theo GoodWe at goodwe.com. This is my, let's say it's the owner email. We'll create a plant, test plant for GoodWe Plus. This is the name of the plant. Afterwards here, sorry, to show you more, if you press here to select the address, it will just pop up. It will have a map popping up, and here if you have location services on, you can easily locate it. And here you can see the Munich office as where we are, and I can just select it here, submit, and then it gives you the local time, and then in case it's all good, you just press on ignore, and it will just get that data. And here, classification. In this case, we have installed a hybrid inverter. So this is a battery storage, not residential. Even if it's used for residential purposes, when it's any storage inverter, please select this one here. The plant capacity, we now have a DC source, so it's a bit difficult to say, but this was a 10 kilowatt ET. So let's say that we then have maybe 12 kilowatt of PV installed. Here's the battery capacity. Let's say we have 8, for example, kilowatt modules. How many do we have? I will just put in 10. For this, here we have a profit ratio. You can have 0, you can have 1, etc. I will just keep the standard here and then upload a photo here on this one and take a picture and take a very nice picture of our inverter. This is our plant. Use photo, and you have it here and submit. See what happens. Important note, new account will be registered with email address with the initial password GoodWe 2018. So the owner email I added in the top one will then receive an email with this information as well. And then I press submit. Let's see what happens. Okay, so now we have the plant created. Here you see the name of the plant and then the information. And now it asks us to add some equipment to the PV plant. And of course, we want to do that. So we press add now. And now you see that the camera is popping up here. And here you see the inverter. And on the side here, with this sticker, you have a QR code here on the bottom corner. So I will just scan this one. Let's see. And as you see, it will just take the serial number and the check code automatically, making it very easy. I will add some name. Amazing inverter is our inverter called. When done, just press add. And our amazing inverter will then be added to the plant. So then you can see it here. Scroll down and here you see the devices added. Here is our inverter added. No generation today, unfortunately, because we're using a DC source. Here you see some additional data, and here you could see some graphs if we would actually produce something. And that is it. So I hope that looked as easily as it felt like for me. And now we will also have the last poll. And then in case you have any questions, you can post them here and we'll try to answer them. So yes, here we have the third poll. The first question is, how can you connect the plant to the free SEMS portal? Only via the app, only via the web, or with both? I showed one now, but I also mentioned something else. Then the initial password created for the end user, we talked about that as well. And also, where can the check code of the inverter be found? I also mentioned that previously. Give you a few more minutes to answer this, and then we have a questions on if any storage inverters that are possible to connect in parallel in the off-grid or backup mode. And we do not have such inverters. I mean, you can connect those ET inverters in parallel, but when the grid fails, then all backup outputs are operated as separate devices. And we do not have any plans currently to have any such inverters coming to the market. But who knows, maybe in the future. And I see that one of you raised your hand. I'm not sure if it's possible for you to speak, or if you have a question, feel free to ask it. You can also post it in the Q&A section. think we'll wait 1 more minute to have everyone answer, and then I think we can leave it. One question is if we can order the inverters and batteries directly from our sales team, or if we have any distributor that you can contact. And we mostly work directly with distributors, and depending on the country, we have different partners. What I would recommend is to contact the GoodWe sales address that you can find on our website, or also in the PV Master app, as you saw before. And there you can just send us an email, and we will get you in contact with a corresponding distributor in your country. It seems to also be some technical issues for some of you that you cannot see the polls. Maybe if you check on the bottom side of the menu or top side on the Zoom menu, you can maybe select the polls for them to pop up. In some cases, when you don't use a computer but a pad or phone, it doesn't work as good. This time we unfortunately have some technical issues with the Google form that we usually provide, and then you can fill in the answers then. But this is not possible this time. However, I think if you have troubles, you can write to us, and then we could maybe send you the questions later. Or we just note down, we find a solution to this. Okay, I think everyone who is here has now answered, and I think we could finish the poll. And yeah, please write us if you had difficulties filling in the polls, and we will try to see what we can do. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining this one. I hope this gave you some insights in how to install the ET inverter. As I said before in the beginning, this is quite new for us to do it like this with a video showing it. If you have any comments or such, please share them so we can try to do this as good as possible. We appreciate all feedback we can get so that we can make this training as good as possible for you.
Hi, Theo.
Hi.
Sorry, I see Adam saying he can see the poll now. I think we can just give him a minute.
Okay, sure. Of course, okay. No worries.
Thank you.
Wait 1 more minute for the polls, and then for the rest of you, I say thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Theo. He's just done. I've closed the poll now.
Okay. Thank you, Lindive and David also.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the slides will be sent out to everyone within a week of the last presentation.
Yes. Thank you, David.
No problem. we have another question just before we close quickly. What are you supposed to do if the meter test is not finished correctly? So the meter test needs to, it's not a requirement for the meter test to perform. That's more for you to double check that everything is installed correctly. You also have to make sure that you are using sufficient grid power for that meter test to perform successfully. So if it fails or anything like that, you can even only have AC on the inverter, don't have your PV on, and then make sure there's sufficient load on each phase before you run the meter test to ensure that the meter test can run and the CTs can accurately measure the power.
Thank you. I hope that answered everyone's questions. If you have any additional questions, we're here to answer them for you. Otherwise, we will have the next module on Tuesday. And then David will go through some troubleshooting and what you could do if something goes wrong. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. Then thank you everyone and have a nice day.